had there earlier. He'll be here before you know it. We're glad to be together for Bible study and for worship. Our first song is all about worship. It says, "Oh, worship the King." Oh, worship the King, all glorious above, and gratefully sing His wonderful love. Our shield and defender, the Ancient of Days, pavilioned in splendor and girded with praise. Oh, tell of His might, oh, sing of His grace, whose robe is the light, whose canopy space. His chariots of wrath a deep thunder clouds form, and dark is His path on the wings of the storm. Till the full King can decide, it breathes in the air, it shines in the light, it streams from the hills, it descends to the plain, and sweetly distills in the dew and the rain. No care. Frail children of dust, and feeble as frail, in Thee do we trust, nor find Thee to fail. Thy mercies, how tender, how firm to the end. Our Maker, Defender, Redeemer, and Friend. Amen. Thank you, Kathy.
Someone's looking out for me. Thanks, man. All right, good evening. I'm a little confused. We're looking at Thanksgiving and we just had a great cheeseburger. So, I mean, it's like summer, fall. Hey. All right. I'm going to open in prayer and we'll start. And do we have enough sheets out there? Did everybody get one? Should be 14 questions in front of you, right? One page? Okay, and we've got our prayer list here. Good, okay. All right, Father, we come before you tonight grateful for the fellowship and the meal that we've enjoyed. We look forward to the upcoming holiday, the gathering. Just being together, family and friends, and eating some good food, of course, but enjoying that fellowship. So we're grateful. Just what a stunning day we've been given today. We're grateful for the time you've given us here. May we look within the words that you've given us and understand the depths of this concept of being clean in you, and how you call us to you to be made clean. Okay, if you want to open up to that passage, we're going to jump to Mark, and then we're going to go back to actually Leviticus. If you have 2-page things, your page markers, you could put one in at Leviticus 15, and then we're also going to be at Mark 5, jumping off of what we covered on Sunday. But before we do that, I always take a risk of asking this and standing here and wondering if it's going to be silence that greets me. But can you recall a time when you were isolated physically? You were in a spot and you were alone. Anybody recall a moment, a time in your life when that happened to you? There you go. There you go. Yeah. I actually ran a couple of miles in the woods in the dark last night. That was fun. I had a light and I was out there in the woods in the dark. I always wanted to spend a night alone in the woods. And so this is some time ago. But I had a friend who had quite a swath of woods up in Minnesota. And I borrowed my buddy's little tent, and I had a pack and a little bit of food, and I went out and spent a night alone out there in the woods, and I'll never forget it. It's funny now because we don't have bears. We didn't have bears and timber wolves there then, but they have moved into that area now. So I wonder if I would have stayed out there that night. They're not going to bother you at night anyway, I guess. But have any of you gone through a time when you were emotionally isolated? Oh, boy. You probably have, but you're a little reticent to share that. I see. No. Huh? Okay, thank you for that honesty. There we go. Okay. All right. What kind of emotions do you feel when you are isolated emotionally? What kinds of things run through your head? What do you have tension with? What kinds of things? Sadness, thank you. But you live with the smiling Tennessee troubadour. How can you ever have a moment of sadness, right? Yes, of course you can. Did I say that right, Tim? Thank you. Yeah, we can be definitely sad. Anything else? Yeah, I would think so. Absolutely. Loneliness. Yep. How about resentment? How might that play into that? Is it possible one could feel resentment when you're isolated? Yeah, if you feel that, I don't know if victimize is the word, but yeah, hurt and resentful. You could, it could be on the other side. You could realize you created this. You're angry at yourself. We can go through a lot of different emotions when we're isolated. And we do isolate, but the nature of God is that He would have us in fellowship with Him and with one another. And so I'm going to pull that string a little bit tonight of isolation. If you were here on Sunday, we're going to read the passage in a moment. Did I insert it here? Yes, I did. Why don't we do that quick? Let's do that first, and then we'll go back and look at a couple other things. So let's go to Mark 5 and 24 all the way to 34. It's 10 verses. It's basically an episode inserted between two others. I'm going to try and make that clear why. But do we have someone who would volunteer to read those 10 verses for us tonight? You got your voice back, so you can do it, right, Jennifer? right, thank you. Okay, now I'd like you to take a look at 5:2. Just backtrack a little bit from our passage. And if you have a CSB, you might see the word unclean there, do you not? Okay, does anybody have a different word, different synonym in an NIV or NASB? Does anyone have a different word there? It says, as soon as he got out of the boat, a man with an unclean spirit, okay? What do you have? Okay. Okay, so we've got an unclean spirit here, okay? And go down to 5:35, just past our passage. Jim, can you read that? Okay. So what word there tells us that we're dealing with an unclean situation? Dead. Okay, so go back now to Leviticus chapter 15. And, okay, now, again, we're adults. This is somewhat graphic, but this is God's word, and I want to tie in to what's taking place, okay? So do I have someone who could read 25 to 31? I'm in Leviticus chapter 15, 25 down through 31. Greg, can you do that? Thank you. Please, of chapter 15, Leviticus. Okay, thank you. Okay, so why is the woman in Mark 5 unclean? Huh? Yeah, and this doesn't seem to be a menstrual cycle. She's been bleeding for how long? 12 years, okay? And so that covers it here really in verse 25b, right? Or if she has a discharge beyond her period, okay? Has she sinned? Well, she probably has, but we don't, there's nothing here that tells us that's taken place, okay? So now notice the last verse we looked at, 31. Keep the Israelites from their uncleanness, okay? So this is tying into, again, God's holiness and your ability in and of yourself, no, not to approach him. Something else has to be done in order for you to do that. And notice also what happens as the result of her state of being unclean with her furniture and her bed, okay? So the point I'm getting at is 5a, how does this passage explain the isolation she experiences? We've just seen the law. Is the law pretty direct? Does it seem to be all-encompassing? Yeah. Okay. How long had this been going on? 12 years. Okay. So let's just put our head into the kind of isolation this woman was walking through every day for 12 years. In addition to that, what had she done with her money? Spent it all, and what had happened? She'd actually gotten worse, it seems, unfortunately, which maybe is no surprise given the technology at the time, okay? Would the people in the crowd, some of them know who she is? Very likely. If she touched them, what would happen? They'd be unclean. What would they have to do? Separate for 7 days. They would, okay? So I'm really trying to get us into this mind game, horrible, that yes, we can look and say, how did God allow this? He did. And she was really in a very, very difficult spot where everyone would have known who she is. And yeah, it's tough. Now, question 6, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate her faith? A 9? Okay, well, good. A 9, 9, 9, give me 10, 10, 10, 10. Why would you say 9? That's an interesting point. Okay, so what would you say? So to you, what would a 10 have done? Got it. Mike, were you going to say something else? Or are you just... Oh, okay. What risk did she take by attempting to touch Jesus' cloak? Did she take any risk, Melissa? What? Yeah, absolutely. And they may have gone and done something really horrible, like perhaps stone her or something. I mean, who knows? So she definitely took some risk. But look at question 8. What does her hope in touching his cloak instead of Jesus himself tell us about how she viewed herself? I think that gives me insight. I'm surmising a bit into her self-perspective. Because it says she wanted just to touch his cloak, right? That tells me something about how she viewed herself instead of touching Jesus' body. Does that say the same? What do you think I'm inferring? Yeah. Right. That could be part of it too. That's a great point. I think there are two things here. There's a level of shame and not wanting to touch him, and if she did, she'd make him unclean. Although, if she believes that by touching him, he can make her clean, then it really contrasts the idea that somehow she could make him unclean. You know, how do you fit those two things? Right. Yeah. And I think I told you on Sunday, the Greek word, yes, literally does mean dried up, that immediately she felt this end. Now, look at 5:34. Daughter, he said, your faith has saved you. Go in peace and be healed from your affliction. There were two things, I think, that were healed. What were they? What two things? And her sin, and yeah, but I think to me, I'm not thinking, because she hadn't sinned. Her self-confidence, her psyche, yes, her shame. So physically she was healed, but clearly lifting off that horror she'd lived in, yes. And just think she probably pulled her cloak down, and she stood there, and it doesn't say what the crowd did, does it? They must have accepted it, but it's just a remarkable, remarkable moment. And I think it may be obvious, but what do you think what thoughts might have been going through her head as the result of Jesus in this happening? Relief, absolutely. What else? Yep. I think joy. Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if she had a friend in the crowd who embraced her now. You know, I would hope so. I think it's likely. Okay, now I want you to turn to Ezekiel 36. We'll tie this in and we'll finish. 36, 24, 25, and 26. Okay, Ezekiel 36, 24, 25, and 26. Can I have someone read that, please? Dave, you got it? Okay, you could probably pull, if not one, two, or perhaps even three. Sir John MacArthur could probably have done 3 sermons on these verses. But what I wanted to point to was 25a. I've also sprinkled clean water on you. And again, the idea of the new covenant, as prophesied here by Ezekiel, is being enacted by Jesus hundreds of years later. And so this aspect of being unclean, which really isn't associated to sin, but there still is an aspect of it being unclean, the Lord has defined. And here, now we've seen this woman relieved. We have no sin that she's been committed. I'm sure she did, like anybody. But again, she's made clean. And I just want to point out again that the new covenant speaks of being clean back through Ezekiel hundreds of years before. So 12 is, what obstacles do we face in seeking out Jesus in the way the woman did? Is it possible we do? The covenant that Jesus enacted and demonstrated in his touching her and is activated now in faith through us today, think of the obstacles she had to overcome. Is it possible that we could or did have obstacles in our life as we approach Jesus? Moment of honesty. What do you think? Okay. So you think pride can be okay? All right. Anything else? Yeah. Are you saying you were selfish? Well, how about this? So let's see if we can open up. Look at 13. What obstacles might others around us face that we as believers can help them overcome if they're looking to Jesus? Are there some obstacles that you have seen in people? People say that they are good enough, that, okay, all right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I've seen both. Absolutely seen both. And they're both opposite ends of the curve, right? Okay, that's definitely a piece of it. How'd you work into that one? Romans 3:23. Yeah. Yeah. Do you have this in Swahili? Let's take a look. Okay. I'm trying to think of other obstacles. I was talk. Go ahead. And how might that affect them? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'd heard that a couple times too. Like, there are a variety of obstacles. This woman clearly embodies an amazing effort on her behalf to. She knew Jesus could do this, and the shame and fear that she overcame. And I think it's worth us taking a look at, considering the obstacles people face today. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I spoke to somebody this weekend who's has a family member who's in an incredibly dark world, and they were grieving the family constantly rescuing this person, and that was one of the biggest struggles in recovery. I just had to tell them, you've got to stop and let them fall as hard and far as they can, or they will never come to the conviction that I need to let go and change, get out of this addiction. They're constantly rescued. It's one of the biggest tension points in families and friends, especially families, as you face addiction. How could we incorporate what we've talked about tonight into our prayers in a few minutes? How might that influence our prayers? Come on, it's got to do something, or we'll go back through all these questions again. Hmm? Go ahead. It's astounding. Yeah, it's astounding. And I'm sure she was shunned and ostracized and alone. Very little. I mean, we would have things to comfort us in that kind of isolation that she did not have. Um, Probably sat in a dirt floored little hovel with one or two pieces of clothing and some very simple food. And holy smokes, she's an incredible model. I think, to me, as I approach it too, just the idea of what are the obstacles that others have as they think and consider Christ. And is it, I've never really sinned, I'm not that bad, or I'm way too bad, he could never do it for me? There are a variety of things. I try to discern those. So I think those are a couple points to reflect on. Anything else as we close and move to prayer? Yeah. Help me understand exactly the situation. What was the, yeah, right, that they couldn't help, right? Yes. Yeah. Yep. That's a tough one. Did you have an answer? What'd you try? Yep. Right. Yep. Yeah, and at one point, Christ says, this is so that my Father might be glorified. So, okay, anything else? All right, well, let's take a look at our prayer list. Let's go through and let's just pick 2 verses under each heading. So do we have someone? Again, what we do here is we read, remember, the verses under each heading. We ask for a volunteer to give a prayer of that type in the blank verses underneath those headings. And then we walk through, we try to cover staff. We list the names of our people on our prayer list here at the end, our cancer victims and people with medical needs. So under adoration, is there someone that would take either of those psalms? Leslie, you got it. Which one do you want? Okay. So you take that. And then let's go do the shorter one. How about the Psalm 118 below that? Jim, you've got that. Thank you. Who's going to take a prayer of adoration tonight? We have a volunteer to do that. Greg, you got that. Okay. How about our Hebrews 12? Okay, Janet. And Isaiah. Dave, you've got it. Prayer of confession. Mr. Puckett. Okay, let's turn the page. Pick one of those 3 at the top. Colossians, Chronicles. There's another Colossians. Somebody? Joe, which one? Chronicles, okay. Who wants to do one of the other 2? Jennifer, you got it. Which one are you going to take? Okay, so you'll do Colossians 3, and then Joe's got 16 of Chronicles. Is that right? Okay. A prayer of thanksgiving. Okay, Tim. Supplication. I'll read that one tonight. How's that? Okay. Could somebody do a prayer of supplication addressing various needs? How about Joe? Thank you. Okay. Who can cover our staff and deacons and Pastor Diaz? Who's got that? Thank you, Ron. Medical needs, that top half. Just recite those names. Pray for help and assistance. Jennifer. Cancer patients. One more. Mrs. Taylor. You mind, Melissa? Thank you. Okay, and then that runs around again to the back page, remember? Got that? And then we'll leave some time of silence, and I'll close this. Or do you want to close this, Jim? How's that? You want me to do it? I thought you might say that. Okay. All right, that's fine. I love to pray. So does everybody know where we're going? Okay? All right. Ms. Ramsey, you're starting us off. Thank you.